In this video, we're going to learn how to safely store configuration data in an ASP.NET Core application. The idea is the following. Sometimes we can have configuration data that we want it to remain secret because it contains sensitive information like a username and password or a secret key that we use to log in into a third-party provider. So what we want to do is to not use the AppSettings JSON or the AppSettings development JSON, but we want to use in the development machine the secrets JSON file, or in production, an environment variable. Let's learn how to use all of those features. So we are here in a brand new Web API ASP.NET Core application. This is a minimal API application, by the way. And here, as you can see, we have our AppSettings JSON, the program class, in which we can have some endpoints. So let me create a new endpoint because the first thing that I want to show you is how do we get information out of a configuration provider. For that, we can do the following. First, let me create this endpoint here. I'll call it configuration. And in order to get that information from a configuration provider, I can use a service that is called iConfiguration. So let me say iConfiguration here, and then this. And in order to get information from here, I can say configuration get value. The data type, in my case, will be a string, but it can be an integer, a boolean, and so on. But in our case, we're going to play with a string. And then in here, I can pass the key of the data that we want to get. That key can be any identifier, like connection string for the connection string of a database. It can be whatever I want. Let's say, for example, OpenAI key or whatever service you have. Now, in my case, I will just say secret. Now, if secret exists, then we're going to get the value for that key. But if it doesn't exist, we're going to get null. So just so that we don't return null from this endpoint, I will say this. I will say no secret was found. All right, and semicolon here. Now let me say Control F5. And since we haven't configured in any configuration provider a secret key, it means that we're going to get null here, and therefore we expect to get back from our endpoint this string here. So let me open this HTTP file here. Let me copy this and paste that here. And let me say here configuration, which is our route, which is this route or endpoint that we have here. So save, send request. And let's see that here we will have no secret was found. Excellent. Now let's say that I want to indeed configure that secret. Therefore, we have many options. The first one that we may think is the AppSettings JSON file and the AppSettings development JSON file. Now, as their name implies, the AppSettings development JSON file is for the development environment, and the AppSettings JSON file is a default file that we can use in any environment like production, staging, and so on. So since we are in development, I will use this development JSON file. Now let me come here and let me write a key, so secret, and then this will be equal to, I will just say I am the AppSettings development JSON file. All right, and comma here. Alright, so now since we have this here, if I come back to the HTTP file and I click on send request, we're going to see that now we have I am the AppSettings development JSON file. Excellent. Now, there is a problem with this AppSettings development JSON file, and what is that? But before I tell you the problem, if you want to learn more about building minimal APIs with ASP.NET Core, buy my Udemy course today. There is a link with a discount in the description of this video. Now, as I was telling you, there is a problem with this file, and that is that if we add this into a Git repository, this file will be part of that repository by default, and therefore, if this is a secret, like a connection string to a production database or something like that, then it means that we're going to be displaying that secret to the whole world, and that is not okay, that is not good, and therefore, we need to do better. This is great, by the way, this is great for configuration data like this one. That is not a secret, that is not a real secret. But if you have a secret, like a key for a third-party provider, then you must not use the AppSettings JSON or the AppSettings development JSON. Instead, you should use, in the case of the development machine, like this machine in which I am developing this application, I can use a user secrets file. Let's see that. Let's come here. Let's right-click here in key sample in my project, and let me say manage user secrets. And then we have yet another JSON file, but this one is special because it lives outside of our application, and therefore, even if I put this code into GitHub, this secrets JSON file will not be committed, and therefore, nobody else but me will be able to access it, and that is great. So let me say here secret, and then I will say here I am the secrets JSON file. Alright, save. Now, I have to say Ctrl F5 to rerun my application. Let me wait for the console. Alright, here, as you can see, the application is running, and therefore, if I come here and I click on send, we have I am the secrets JSON file. Excellent. Now, you may be wondering, okay, so I have a key here, this secret key here, in the AppSettings development JSON file and also in the secrets JSON. Why it is that we're getting back this value from here and not the one in the AppSettings development JSON file? Well, the reason for that is that there are categories. There are ranking, let's say, in the configuration providers. The least ranked configuration provider is this AppSettings JSON file. The second one would be the AppSettings development JSON file. Then in third place, it is the secrets JSON file. And then after that, we have the environment variable. Now, this is configured here in the program class in this createBuilder method that we have here. There are other configuration providers that we can configure. Like for example, we can configure an in-memory configuration provider. That is that I can add the configuration data here, for example here in the program class. We're not going to see that in this video, but the idea is that some have prevalence over the others. So, alright, so again, we have this here, and this is great because now this is outside of any Git repository that I create, so this is great. But the problem with the secret JSON file is that it only lives in my machine, therefore it cannot be used in production. So what if we want to have a secret in production? For that we can use an environment variable. We can use environment variables differently depending on the provider that we're using. For example, if we are using a GitHub Action, if we are using Azure, if we are using AWS, all of them can have environment variables configured in them. So let's learn how to configure an environment variable in Azure. So let's say that I want to publish my web API. So let's come here, right click on here, publish. In my case, I already have an Azure account. So double click on Azure, double click on Azure App Service. We can use Windows if we want to, create new because I want to create a new Azure App Service. So in here, I will create a new resource group. I'll call it delete me because this is temporary. Okay. And then in here, I can create a new hosting plan. I can say East US, and I'll say V1. All right. Okay. And create. Now, what this is going to do is that it is going to create the Azure App Service. That is the place in which we're going to put our web API. We're not going to publish our web API just yet. We have to wait first for the app service to be created and then we're going to publish our web API. So let's wait. Alright, so this has been created. So next, skip and finish. So close. Now this is the publish profile page. So I can click on publish and now we're going to publish our application. So now again, let's wait. Alright, so here we are. Let me come to configuration to our endpoint and let's see that it says no secret was found. Of course, because we haven't configured a secret that is available in Azure because we use the AppSettings development JSON file, which is only used in development, of course, and the secrets JSON file that is also only used in my development machine. And therefore, we now have to configure a configuration provider that can be used in Azure. We're going to use a environment variable. So let's come to portal.azure.com. Let's come to resource groups, delete me, or right here to the app service. And in here at the left, we're going to see settings, environment variables. And in here, I can add a new environment variable here. Alright, so I can call it secret. And then in here, I will say, I am an environment variable in Azure. Alright, so apply, confirm. And with this, I have created an environment variable. Now, it may take like 10-15 seconds for this to appear here. So let me refresh. Let's see that we still have no secret was found. That is okay. Let's wait like 5 seconds. Alright, so let's refresh. And as you can see, we have I am an environment variable in Azure. So indeed, we have learned how to safely store configuration data using configuration providers. Thank you.